What's up? How y'all doing? Happy Thursday, or whatever day you're watching this on. Happy day. For those of you that watched the last video, that Honda was like the coolest thing I think I've ever done. Like I was on such a high when I finished in the shop that night that I literally just couldn't sleep. Like it was mind-blowingly cool to me with how that little 200 SX just fired up after being, derelict for who knows how long. So that was really cool. So for those of you that watched that video, just, sharing my happiness, it was really, really so much fun. I did wind up selling it to a kid who just wanted a bike to play around with. He was super cool about it. He was like, I'll bring you $500 right now. I was like, dude, come on, let's go. That's a 400% profit. Come on with it. So that was really cool. So for those of you that have watched or are watching that video, thank you. For those of you who have been subscribing to my channel, I appreciate it. I think there's still a 99.7% deficit, so we need to work on that a little bit, but I'm not going to push. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. If you want to like the video, like the video. It does not matter to me. I do these videos because I want to. So anyway, moving on. I went and bought another bike last night, and something kind of caught me off guard. I told the guy the value of the bike, and he said, well, how do you know the value of the bike? I said, KBB, NADA, it's out there. He had no idea. I actually had to pull the website up and show him the value of the bike. So I figured I'd go ahead and do a kind of walkthrough of what I do when it comes to buying ATVs. And side-by-side, same thing. It's all the same. First and foremost, if you're going to go buy a bike, very, very simple. Go on to Google or Bing or whatever you use and just type in, for example, 2002 Honda Rancher 350 2x4 value. And you can also do it the old-fashioned way on NADA only and actually go through and pick, what you have. Do that, and it's going to show you low retail and average retail. If you're selling, you always want to look at the average retail of what you have. If you're buying, you want to look at the low retail of what you're buying. That gives you a really strong idea of what you should be paying for that motorcycle. Now, so let's say you're like me and you found a nice bike to buy. What do you look for? What's the first thing you need to check? First of all, look at the body of the bike. Keep in mind, this thing is 20 years old, or coming up on 20 years old. So, should it be perfect? Probably not. But look at the small things, okay? First and foremost, there's a rivet missing here, right? That's easy. There's a run missing here. There again, easy. But here's some more interesting stuff. You see this? That tells me that this thing has been rode kind of hard, and you can see scratches from where they've stood on this thing. Probably in deep mud, that kind of stuff. So first thing you want to do is check the body. Are there places where there were switches? Why are there not switches there anymore? What happened? You got to ask yourself questions like that. Look at the paint on the handles, everything like that. But okay, so let's say the body checks out fine, minus the missing rivets and everything. Let's say the body checks out fine. Great. What do you move on to next? First thing I always do is grab the tire, shake it left, up and down, because chances are this is how you're going to find the bike, is sitting on the floor. Okay? So grab the tire, shake it. This one's got a little play in the left front hub. Not a big deal. They're $20 on Amazon. I know that because I've replaced them before. Grab the right side. This one's got a little play too. Not terrible. There again, $20 on Amazon. Great. Now, you're on solid rear axle Hondas. Your back ones are not going to be as big of a deal. What you have to watch out for is, like, this one's got a hidden axle, right? So if you get to riding this thing and this tire starts shaking like, a 1970s disco, you got to be careful because that hub could be bent inside of there. So you always want to check that out. All right. always look for signs of leaks, like this one. The input shaft to the rear differential has a leak. Not terrible, but not great. Okay, so suspension-wise and drive-wise, it's not terrible. This is a two-wheel drive, so all I have to look for up front is just the hubs. That's easy. There's no front drive shafts. Then you can always look for your VIN plate on Hondas. They're hidden here on the frame, 2002. See that? So that gives you your good value. Your specs are off to the other side of that sticker. Now, if these stickers are on there, that's a good sign. That means that this is the original frame to the bike. So that's a really good sign. And if yours has a screen like this one does, check your mileage. So this one has 10,000 miles on it. Now, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. If it's got 10,000 miles on it, that means it's been ridden. It hasn't idled a whole lot. It's been ridden and actually driven its entire life. If you got a bike that has 700 hours and 200 miles, that means it idled a lot of its life. There again, not a bad thing, just something to think about. So, moving on. So you check the hours. Great. All right, so that works. So go ahead and start it up. Put it in neutral first. That thing started great. The cold start is what you want to look for. Do you have smoke coming out of the exhaust? Does it smell oily? See that? See how it's starting up? Now, I knew all this when I bought the bike. I went there knowing that it had these issues. Not a big deal. And I'll tell you why. I wasn't worried about it for two reasons. Number one, he told me that it smoked when it started up. That's okay. But the whole top end of the engine had just been redone. Now I can tell that really quick by looking here. Between the casing, there's fresh RTV. And it looks like a really, really good job was done. Smoke is not a bad thing, especially on these old Hondas. The smoke you want to watch out for is when you're riding and it's just pluming out smoke, because that means you've got blown rings in the cylinders. You don't want that. That's not a good thing. But okay, fine. So let's say you're to this point now. Bike is started. Now you go take it for a test drive. If you have an electric shift or a foot shift, make sure it goes through all the gears. Make sure it has reverse. You don't hear any grinding, anything like that. Now on an automatic, a belt drive, all you want to do is make sure that it will hit speed and it doesn't slip when you accelerate. You're looking for that, and you're listening for weird grinding noises from the clutches. That's what you're listening for on the automatics. On the Honda ESs and S's, you're just making sure it goes through all the gears, because these don't have clutches on them. So you just need to lay out the throttle, shift, 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 shift. Make sure you got all the gears. Once you are at that point that you've test driven the bike, at that point then you can start your negotiations. Not before. Now, the guy's going to come out strong. Hey, I wanted $2,000 for this bike. Okay, well, it's got bad bearings, smokes a little bit, the seat's kind of torn up, you know, the plastics are missing some rivets. So you want to kind of, and what I like to do is it's kind of a car dealership trick. You kind of just, well, it's missing some rivets and that's missing there, and it obviously had some stuff on it, and you know, it's got the wheel bearings are kind of shaky and smokes and all that stuff. But here's the thing, guys. If he's like me, he knows what he has in it, and he knows what he has to have for it. You're only going to get these people so low. But I highly, highly, highly recommend, don't Facebook negotiate. Get a decent number in your head. Tell the guy this is what you're thinking. But don't negotiate on Facebook. Show up to the meeting location with cash in your back pocket. Because I promise you that means more to a seller than anything in the world. If I'm selling this bike for $2,500 and you say, I'll give you $1,500 for it, I'm going to say, get to packing, bud, because you ain't going to have it. If you say, all right, well, let me come take a look at it, I'm going to have so much more respect for you as a buyer if you negotiate with me in person. Because you can do the exact same thing that I just did to buy the bike. You can point out all the flaws it has. I don't have a choice but to listen to you. So, kind of wrap this up a little bit. The ATV world is very, very hot right now. Everyone's buying and selling, and everyone's a seller. Everyone thinks they know how to buy and sell bikes because they've seen it on TV. Okay? But there's a certain way to do it where you can do it like I've done continuously. The first thing is to be very educated. Know what you're going to go look at. Know how it works. Go on Facebook and search some for sale. See what they're selling for to see if you're really getting a good deal. If the seller tells you that there's issues with it, you have to look into the repair costs. What is it going to cost to fix this? If it's $20, $30, then that's something you can work with. If it's $100, $200, $300, $400, $500, then you got to really think, is this worth negotiating over, or is it better just to move on to the next one? Hondas, Yamahas, and Kawasaki's are very easy to buy because they're very simple machines. Can-Am, Polaris are going to be a whole lot more difficult because they have a lot more electronics built into them. Like when I bought my last two Can-Ams, I had to change the whole way I thought about buying bikes because it wasn't just a 5-speed transmission attached to an engine, attached to an axle. And it's fuel injected with throttle sensors, speed sensors, belt sensors, everything. It had all these sensors on it, so I had to be very, very careful about what I was buying. So this was a very short video, but I kind of want to do this for a while, is go over how I buy bikes. And you may do it differently, or you may know someone who does it differently. In North Carolina, this is how it works for me. We're very Southern hospitality driven. So I don't negotiate much on Facebook. I always show up to the person's meeting location, and at that point, then I'll negotiate with them. And it's just the respect thing to do. This guy wanted $2,000. I got him down to $1,900. I think I might have overpaid a little bit, but I think I'll do okay. A couple $100 here and there. Always remember, profit is profit and will always be profit. Whether you make $1 or $100, you didn't have that dollar to begin with. Just keep that in mind. So don't get discouraged if you're not making $1,000, $2,000 profits. Don't get discouraged. And the market's always going to fluctuate, especially like I'm dealing with winter right now. Prices are sky high because no one's riding. So there's a million things to think about. And this is just a really quick nitty-gritty video. If you guys have any serious questions, contact me. Let me know. I'll do what I can to help you. But I've been buying and selling things for 10 years. Nothing has changed. The only thing different is Craigslist is pretty much defunct by now. It's all through Facebook. So you can't hide anything anymore. You really can't. You got to be straightforward and honest, because guys like me are not going to treat dishonesty very well. So just be straight up. Be a good person. That's all you got to do. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry this was a full-on talking video, but if you do have any questions, let me know. Peace.